Hello, and welcome to the Grandma's Wealth Wisdom YouTube channel. Joining me today is Alexandra, and we're going to have a lot of fun talking about some taboo topics. And
Do it.
yeah, Alexandra is the queen at that, and I'm looking forward to hearing her perspective on it. As always, participate in the comments, like, subscribe, all the things. We would love to hear from you. So, Alexandra, we got your bio in the description below, but I want to hear a little bit of the behind the scenes. What do you want to make sure people know about you?
That's a good one. That's always it's always so at the end of the day, I love life. I love being a mom, I love being a wife, I love being an entrepreneur. I took this huge leap of faith by leaving corporate America and then branching out and then talking about having herpes. Like that was a huge jump. And I just look at it as if there's any way I can help and support other people going through it. So we all have this thing that makes us feel like we're handcuffed, or if I didn't have this then, or could do this if that. And usually whatever that is not a big deal, and it's only a big deal in our head. So if I could, just one message would be, don't let anything hold you back.
Yeah, we're going to have such a fun conversation today because I know we're both coming from a place of, what's been powerful for us. We want to share it with other people. So I look forward to getting to
Exactly.
that part of your story and how you do that. But take us back a little bit. Where does all this come from? Even from childhood, were you an outspoken kind of person?
That's a great question. I'm an only child. So a lot of times as only children, we kind of fall in line of what's expected of us. I was always an entrepreneur though. I was the ringleader. There's 4 cousins that were all born within the same year.
Mm.
And so I was kind of the ringleader. But the way our front porch or not front porch, our front of the house, like our driveway was set up, there was like this little retaining wall, I guess is what I'd call it. It was more decorative. But anyways, I would make books, and I don't know what they entailed. I would draw pictures and I would make books and I would sit there and sell them.
Cool.
So I would like sit out there and sell my books. So I think that being an entrepreneur or in sales or just trying to create something and get it out has always been there.
Okay. So, as you went into adulthood, how did you see that come out, or, shy away for a little while? Like what, young adulthood, what did that look like for you?
Young adulthood. Well, I went to college and, I went to obviously high school and college and blah, blah, blah. But I think in my mind, the thought was like, I'd go to college, I would graduate in 4 years, like not only graduate, but graduate in 4 years. And then I would, like become a CEO by the time I'm 25, or like I would have my own business by the time I'm 25, or like be, and I remember I got my first paycheck out of college. It's actually a funny story. My senior year, I'm like, oh yeah, like I'll get a job. My dad's like, I don't think you understand. Like when you're graduating in May, you will have a job lined up when you graduate. So, like Christmas break, my dad sat me down, we had this talk. Then spring break, of course, I hadn't worked on it because like to a college kid, May, like spring breaks in March, like that's years.
Right.
So I wasn't allowed to go to spring break. I had to come home and interview. And I was one of the only kids that had a job when I graduated. But the funny thing is I get my first job and I'm in new home sales for a home builder. My first paycheck didn't have a comma. Right.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it was under $1,000. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, okay. Like this whole aspiration. So I would say I don't say I got caught up in the rat race, but I got caught up with, well, I'll keep working. And I guess I always was trying to figure something else out.
Yeah. Kind of take that 20-something idealism has a nice punch
Yeah.
in the face, it sounds like, but then
Yeah.
you use that to kind of propel you forward into
Yeah.
towards success, which is great because a lot of people would have just let them knock them down, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think your 20s, they're very different from, say, our parents or our grandparents. Our 20s now are really the opportunity to learn who you are.
Yeah.
I got into a lot of debt. I, continued to live the lifestyle in which I was provided as a child. And of course, when your paycheck doesn't have a comma in it, um, you don't get very far with that, especially living in Southern California or living, I actually lived in New York City at that time. Our rent for a studio apartment at that time, this is in 2008, was $3,700.
It had a comma in it. The
That
rent.
had a comma. That one had a comma.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, um, you're working, you're in corporate America, you're trying to figure out how to pay for things, figuring out your identity. When does that shift start
Yeah, the worst
happening?
thing I did, which I don't recommend anyone doing, the worst the shift, well, I would say the worst thing I did was buy a car. Don't
Mm.
don't do that.
Especially in
Don't
New
do
York
that.
City. Were you still
Don't get
there?
a car payment. Well, no, I was in San Diego at the time,
Okay.
but yeah, but it's a bad. Don't like, oh, I got my first job, I can get it. No, don't do that.
Mm. Okay.
Don't do
Yep.
that. Where did the shift happen? I would say it wasn't. So when I turned 30, like starting to turn 30, that's kind of that aha. I set the goal to pay off my debt. I got it paid off. I didn't pay it off until 29. It took me a long time to pay it off. So I was like, I have to pay it off by the time I'm 30. Um, and wanting to make, okay, now I want to buy a house. Like, you want to get your ducks in a row. So it's the whole idea of turning 30.
Yeah.
Am I going to, what do I want to do with my life? Do I want to get married? Do I not want to get married? Do I want to have kids? Do I not? Do I always want to live with my parents because I spent too much money? No. Right.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
is that when the inklings toward entrepreneurship started coming up, or did you feel like you had to get your financial house in order and all those kind of things before you could pursue something?
no. So what happened was, I will get a little personal here. So I ended up getting herpes when I was 28, and I was living at home. I was dating somebody I knew really well. And I thought that I had to stay with him because we both had herpes. And at that point, I didn't know anybody that actually, I had one friend that had herpes. But it wasn't talked about. There was no online support groups. There was no, you just walk away with the trifold that you get from the doctor's office. And so I was really in this dark space, and I was literally like, the light bulb was not on. I didn't have color in my skin. Like you look at someone and they just like
Yeah.
look pale, or they don't look
Yeah.
healthy. I had awful acne. I was struggling at my job. I was I had a boss that was on me a lot. I just, everything, a bad relationship, herpes, debt, living with your parents. And so I thought, okay, at 30, I cannot be living with my parents. This is not the guy I want to marry. Um, and I need to figure that out. So it was really getting out of, I call it the Eeyore phase that I was in, was literally like, there's a rain cloud over you everywhere you go. And I thought, okay, I have to get out of this rain cloud, because if I'm stuck in this rain cloud, I won't be productive at work. I'm not going to eat healthy. I'm not going to do things that are healthy. I'm not going to surround myself with people that are healthy. I'm not going to do those things. So little by little, step by step. So at 30 was when that clicked. And I think it was 32, 31, 32, 32, I think, is when I kind of made that leap. I don't know. 2015. I don't know. I
Okay.
can't do the math in my I
Okay.
can't do the math in my head right now. Yeah.
So it's sounding
So
like there's these little shifts, little changes over time. It didn't happen overnight. Obviously, like you didn't pay off debt overnight, didn't move out of your parents overnight,
no.
but you started being intentional, seeking after those things. Was the journey into entrepreneurship the same way? Or was it kind of like people imagine you just put in your 2 weeks notice and said, I'm going to figure this out?
Kind of all of the above. Like,
Okay.
So what I did is I went to, I don't know if you're familiar with John Lee Dumas.
Yeah.
He's an
EO
entrepreneur on
Fire.
fire,
Yeah.
EO Fire, and Michael Steltzner, who puts on Social Media Marketing World in
Yeah.
San Diego, and Mari Smith, who is a guru on Facebook. And so I was involved with this club. It's more like a business club, like you go and like can have breakfast type, like that type of thing.
Yeah.
And the young executives, so we put on this event talking about podcasts. And I'm like, and I was actually in charge of the event. And I didn't get these people together. Someone facilitated it, but I was in charge of this event. And these were the guest speakers. I'd never heard of a podcast. I'm like, I don't know what this thing is, whatever. So here I'm not only with like podcasters, I'm with like podcasters. Like these are like the people. So I left that event. It was a cold night. It was in the middle of winter. And I remember like driving home, it was raining, and I'm like, I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to do this. And then the idea was, well, what do I talk about it? Like, what do I figure out? Is it going to be about? I was in the mortgage industry at that point, which in my opinion, like some people, like my husband, like mortgages light them up. Me, I think they're the most boring thing ever. So I'm like, it's going to be about mortgages. Is it going to be about, never thought it'd be about herpes. That's like not even on the radar. Is it going to be about lifestyle? So then that took some time. And then I launched my first podcast. It took me 3 months to figure out how to do it. Right? Like, how do you submit? Because back then, as you know, we're talking 2015, it wasn't easy like it is now. Like I had to do a WordPress website. How do you do that? So anyways, that started. And then again, one of the things I learned in kind of being in the mortgage and corporate America, typically corporate America, things are handed to you, but the team in which I worked with, they were very entrepreneurial, and we created all of our own like processes and systems. And so I came from that world and was able to create an outline and not just like make it a hobby.
Yeah.
You know, make it something.
Cool.
I feel like I'm rambling on that.
No,
topic,
you're doing great. So you get the podcast bug, and I can imagine for a lot of people that could be a hobby. What did that look like to say, okay, I'm going to do a podcast, but I'm actually going to make it a business, and I'm going to make sure I make money from this?
People are like, you're leaving the mortgage world. And like, you know, I had a great job, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And my first topic that I came out with was sex, money, food. So even bringing out the topic sex was still a really big deal. And like, I was talking to a friend about this. Even listening to our music, listen to songs from 2010, 2015, like they're still not that provocative. Now you get to songs like Cardi B and like they're provocative. So again, using the word sex even in 15 was still a kind of a provocative thing, you know, like those lines hadn't been blurred yet. And so those were my topics. And the idea behind that was, we have issues in one of the three. Like everybody has an issue in one of the three: sex, money, or food, or both, or all three, or one at one point in your life or later on in your life. So just talking to people on those journeys. As I kind of dug through that and learned more about it, the more I realized I have to talk about having herpes, because I never mentioned it. Like I was terrified. Why would you tell anybody you have genital herpes? Because of this horrible stigma. And then I just realized that there was this huge opportunity to support people, whether it was because they had herpes or whether they had some secret that was like having herpes. They had some secret. And as soon as I realized that, I just took it and ran and made it work.
Yeah.
Made it happen. Made it profitable.
Okay. So let's dig into this taboo topics. Kind of, you know, there's I think everybody also has something they don't like talking about, whether it's politics or religion or money or sex or, you know, whatever it might be. What are some of the things you've learned from sharing your story and that could help empower people to feel more comfortable sharing their own thoughts and feelings about something that they might have a hard time talking about?
Yeah. somebody else has your same story. They may not have the exact same recipe to your story. It may have started here or started there, but somebody else is going through that. And if I could have had somebody back in 2011, like to just hold my hand, and walk me through it, or to see my aspirations of where I wanted to be, and like see that person and be like, wow, she has that too, and look at where she is or he is, or that would have just been life-changing, would have been huge. I wouldn't have been stuck in my Eeyore phase for 2 years.
Yeah.
So if
Mom problems.
Yep. So if I could have, so for someone else, it's like, I have whatever it is, just know that there is truly someone else going through the exact same thing, and that it's only within you that can overcome it, right? No one can do it for you. Like no one can tie your shoes for you for the rest of your life. You are going to have to learn to do it at some point in your life. So no one can overcome your problems for you. You're going to have to figure out the combination that's going to work for you. But by sharing that with somebody, it just can give them a ray of hope.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. And it's kind of like by sharing, it's an opportunity for empathy, that
Yes.
whatever I want to share, whatever I want to feel, I can empathize that this person probably has something similar. And
Yeah.
they're able to really, and it's an invitation for them to empathize with where I'm coming from
Yeah.
too, with whatever place that looks like with them.
Exactly. Exactly. Everybody has something in their life that has thrown them out from under their feet. And it's something that we probably don't want to share. And as being able to have that empathy and be able to connect on that same level makes us human.
Yeah. So, how has this idea transformed your work or your story? Maybe even particularly with money, like this idea that you can share and that you can find people, like that everyone has their own version of the same story.
Yeah. Well, in any area of life, right? Whether it's business, if you're a salesperson or you're a doctor, or whatever it is, the humility that comes out when you share what you've overcome allows us to connect. So whether or not, so whatever, if you're in sales, like I'll go back to mortgage. Now, I probably, if I was back in the mortgage industry, wouldn't be like promoting, maybe now everybody's open about everything. But back then it was like, you don't, personal and work still haven't really combined.
Hmm.
But it allows just people to see that you're human. You know how like when you're little, like you thought that your teacher like slept at school, and like your teacher doesn't have a family, and like your teacher is only at school, and like all of a sudden you realize you see your teacher at the grocery store or something, you're like, whoa, like you do that? Like you go to
Hmm.
the grocery store too?
Hmm.
It's kind of like that. Like we don't think of our doctors, or we don't think of our lawyers, we don't think of our teachers, or we don't think of them having herpes, but they do, or whatever it is.
Hmm.
We don't think of them. So allowing them to connect. So as far as money, as allowing them to show like they've had to overcome things to get where they are. One of the things I tell people, because they kind of are frozen in their foot tracks, and I'm like, there's some really powerful men and women in this world that are diagnosed with herpes as well, and they've been able to overcome it and do whatever they've been able to do. Now, I don't know anybody off the top of my head, but like statistically speaking, 2 out of 3 people have HSV1. So that's a lot of people. And you can't say that every person that has become financially successful or whatever doesn't have herpes. It's not the truth.
Right.
So that's just
Right.
how I look at it.
Yeah. And replace that with a whatever stigma, right?
Whatever.
Yeah.
Insert your whatever.
Yeah. Bankruptcy, debt,
Bankruptcy.
yeah,
Yeah.
all the things. Yeah.
Bad FICO,
Mm.
yeah, filing bankruptcy, having the IRS do repo, any of those things, being kicked out of your home, um, all of those things that, of course, I saw in the mortgage industry as
Yeah.
well. Or not being
Yeah.
able to afford a house, or like being in escrow and having it fall. I mean, all those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fast forward to today. What does life look like for you
Okay.
now in business? Give us a picture. What do you spend your time doing?
TikTok. And that's been a huge mental shift. Again, coming from corporate America, or coming, the whole idea, or the whole ideology that we were taught as students, and you work hard, you do the work, it's hard, and then you're rewarded with the corner office or whatever. You put in all the hours and you get this. And all of a sudden it's like, wait, I get to play. Like, it's like fun. I get to play, and I get my message out, and people, and that's my funnel. That's like the top.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
my funnel is TikTok. So not only is it fun for me, but it brings in the revenue.
Good.
Yeah, and being able, like I know you do in your business, is you have a lot of people helping you. You have
Yeah.
help. You're able
Yeah.
to delegate. And getting to that point, I think there's something to be said in a business. You need to know how to do it, but then you can offload it. So perfect
Mhm.
example, learning WordPress. I never want to use WordPress ever again in my life,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? But I
Mhm.
knew how to do it so that I could tell if somebody was overcharging me for what I needed fixed, a broken link, and it's like, no, all you have to do is click, 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 and it's fine. That's not $500. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yep. Yep. Okay. And then what's coming in the future? What are you most hopeful or excited about?
I'm looking at some other businesses.
Mm.
So I'm not ready to totally share on that, but I'm looking at branching out of the sexual health industry, keeping my fingers in the pie, of course, but looking at some future different things. So I know it's been fun getting into e-commerce and understanding e-commerce. I mean, I don't think we'll ever understand it totally, because it changes. The rules change every day. Like
Yeah.
Google just changes the rules. Like, I'm going to change
Yeah.
them today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, you know,
Yeah.
but yeah, just looking at some other stuff. So
Okay.
that's new.
Okay. Well, tell people if they want to stay in touch, get the sneak peek into what these new things are, or hear more about
Yes.
your current work, where should people go?
I'll tell you one thing. It's about being a hero. So that's my little sneak
Nice.
peek. It's about being a hero. You can find me, I'm trying to think. Well, if you have any herpes questions, TikTok is probably where it's at. So it's Life with Herpes is my community. It's my website. It's that's basically the 411 on anything related with that. Other than that, you can find me alexandraharbushka.com, or you can also find me on TikTok at Alexandra Harbushka. You can see my little boy on that one.
Awesome. I'm going to be going there right when we're done today.
Right before this, he wanted to clean the toilet, and I was like, no, 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 no. I'm sure you understand.
Yep. 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 Totally. Um, I I'm having all kinds of I hope that we make it in the bowl, you know,
Uh,
feelings right now. Um,
so I had a really good tip from my little cousins. Now they're 23, so they've clearly outgrown that. But they
mhm.
got M&Ms
Yeah.
if they got it in yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He's doing good now. Yeah, we're fine. Just having flashback moments. Yeah. Um, Anything else you wanted to make sure that you shared today, or any parting words of wisdom?
Yeah, I would say a couple of things. No, one person is we're not an expert in all fields of our life. So there's nothing wrong with hiring or asking or going to find people. So perfect example, Amanda, you guys have your grandma's wisdom when it comes to finances. That's your wheelhouse, right? So for anybody that needs that type of support, go there. If you're like, I need help with nutrition, like don't go find someone that can work with you. If you need support with, I don't know, even cleaning your house. If you're like, that just overwhelms me, find someone that can help you or make it easier. Or no one is an expert in everything, like I said. So go find that person that can support you through it and then move through life gracefully.
Great. That's very, very a lot of value there. Easier said than done, but we always need that
Totally.
little push, that encouragement to not try to figure out how to do it all ourselves, but to lean on others as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
good. Okay. Thanks so much, Alexandra. We'll have to have you back in the future to talk about your endeavors as when they get going, because I'm now in suspense and
Yes.
I want to hear all about them.
I know, right? It'll be fun.
Okay. Everybody go
Thanks,
check
Amanda.
out Life with Herpes and alexandraharbushka.com. Thanks so much.